How many sales do you lose every month when your prospect says, I just need some time to think it over?
That's Jeremy Miner. Today, he's handling the most common sales stall. I need to think about it. And I think by the end of this video, we can take this to the next level and ditch some of the stuff that feels maybe a little bit put on, a little bit weird. So let's dive into today's video so you get some massive value and close more deals.
Yikes. All right, you want to stop that from happening so you can close those deals. I can show you how to do that and overcome it here on this vibe board. You ready? You might want to write this down. All right, the first thing that you have to learn how to do when the prospect says that objection is you have to get them to let their guard down.
That's a generally really good principle, right? So typically when somebody's objecting, there's an unmet concern underneath the surface that they just don't feel comfortable sharing with you. They don't trust you. You're a sleazy salesperson, but you're not really, you're not. But that's typically the response is most of the time I need to think about it is there's something I don't feel comfortable sharing with you or talking about, or just I don't really feel like saying no. So it's most of the time a smokescreen.
Throw out some type of rebuttal like, well, what do you need to think about? Or you said you like the car, what do you need to think about? What does the average prospect do? They get defensive, and then they typically throw out more objections. Am I right? I think you know I'm right on that one. Now,
the signature Jeremy Miner, am I right? But he's not wrong, right? So most people have this rebuttal straight away. It's like, but what do you need to think about? I'm the person that you could talk to right now that has all the information. So, talk to me about it. It's like, hey, it's a little bit put on. It's a little bit gross. We don't have to do that. And I think one of the biggest things here is there's a big difference between selling to adults and selling like the YouTube guru type person, Instagram with all their word tracks, like heavy as the crown and all of this like really intense alpha bro aggressive sales stuff. We don't have to do that, right? And outside of the biz op space and high ticket, it's not very effective. So I think that's the biggest misconception is all of that stuff that you might see on YouTube around, this is how you handle people. Yeah, it might work on the 30-year-old single guy who has no dependents. But as soon as you start selling to sophisticated buyers, it shit just doesn't work. It feels really put on, it feels really gross. But let's get back to the video.
Is the I want to think it over, is that a real objection? Does the prospect sit there after you leave and write out everything and the pros and cons and what they like and what they don't like, and then 3 weeks later they make a decision? No. I want to think it over is just them. It's a defensive mechanism in their mind where they don't want to tell you what the real objection is.
Yes, and also there's a caveat to that. So we have a video on this channel, it's called the 4 buyer personalities. So based on human behavior, there is a small subset of the population, your kind of analytical buyer, the very sophisticated, need to know all the details. They're running a decision-making strategy called multiple time convincers. So these people will genuinely need time. So while he's technically correct, the more precise answer is most of your prospects don't really need to think about it, but there are 2 different types of prospects. One that we call wizard type prospects, so very analytical, and also the mother archetype prospect who also requires a little bit of time to think about it because they have a decision-making strategy called period of time convincer. And it's a bit beyond the scope of this video, so I'll link it either up here or down there in the description where you can go and understand the 4 different buying personalities, where some of those genuinely do need time based on proven human behavior principles. So it's not entirely accurate to say that everybody doesn't need time to think about it, but it is accurate to say most of the time, the first I need to think about it that you get is a defense mechanism that means there's something deeper underneath the surface.
Are you with me? So this is not the objection, it's what they want to think about. That's the real objection. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to help them tell you what the real objection is, and then you know it, and then you can address it and help them overcome it. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to agree with them. I'm going to break this down step by step so you can conceptualize it and then use it for what you sell. You say, Jeremy, I just really need some time to think about it. Yeah, John, look, that's not a problem. Now, what's your time frame on getting back to me in the next day or so just to see if I'll be available for you?
And as a general principle, yes, it's a great idea to let to disarm that objection by giving somebody some space to think about it. So just kind of taking it off the table. The whole when will I be available stuff, it's really put on. Like if you're just talking to another human being and they turn around and they say, yes, when I'll be available, it does sound a little bit wanky. So I would just ditch that and just say, yeah, sure, let's book another appointment in a couple of days, take the time to think about it. And as you do, like once we've got that locked in, was there anything else that you didn't feel comfortable talking about today that we can potentially dive into? And do you have everything that you need to sort of go and cross your I's and dot your T's, whatever. But we'll get into that in a moment. But that's what I would just say. It's like, see if I'd be available. It's wanky.
Now, why would I not try to address this and ask him what he or she wants to think about right here? Do you know why? Because my first job is what? To get them to let their guard down. Because if I can't get them to let their guard down, they're not going to tell me what the real concern actually is. So the first thing you're going to agree, yeah, that's not a problem, Sally.
I agree with that. I think that in principle is a really, really good, solid sales frame. The whole, if I'll be available, you can ditch that.
What's your time frame on getting back to me in the next, I guess, day or two, just to see if I'd be available for you?
The Jeremy Minor typical soft, confused tone. Look, for some of you, that might work. For a lot of other people, it feels really put on and really not like them. So if you can't deliver that, don't stress. You don't have to sell like that.
Okay, now, what do I do there? Why did I say just to see if I'd be available for you? And why did I say what's your time frame in the next day or so to get back to me? What this does is it raises your status in their mind when you say just to see if I'd be available for you. Our expert...
It raises the status in the mind of prospects that are desperate or prospects that are naive rather than a sophisticated buyer. So a sophisticated buyer, probably somebody like you who has been on multiple of these calls. If I was to say something like the next day or two to see if I'd be available, you already get a sense of like, that's gross. Like, that's not true, right? Like sophisticated buyers or people that have been in the market for a while, they can smell this stuff. It's a gross scent that we can just pick up on like a shark at the ocean with a drop of blood. Like we can smell it from miles away. So you don't need that stuff. It doesn't serve you in any sense. In fact, it does the opposite. It just flags you as like salesperson.
It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? No. That's why they're an expert, because everybody wants to do business with them. Everybody wants to buy from them. So if you're like, oh,
that is true if you are genuinely a busy person, right? So busy people have higher status. Like, for example, I would believe that if Jeremy might have said to me, I might not be available in the next couple of days. Yes, that makes sense, right? Like he runs a multi-7-figure company, whatever. But if you're just average Joe Schmo Blow like me, right? And you say to see if I'd be available, there's no credibility there. So people are like, yeah, whatever. So we don't want to try and engineer and manufacture status where it's not authentic, because that's the stuff, that's the incongruence that people can feel that it's just kind of gross.
I can call you tomorrow at 5, or I can call you at this time. You're just lowering your status because they view you just like a regular salesperson who nobody likes, all right?
We can't re-engineer status as a salesperson. You just are a salesperson, right? Like if you're in a sales role, nothing you can do will collapse the idea that you are lower status because you're the one selling the process. You genuinely want the sale, right? The business needs the sale. The prospect doesn't need you. So there's stuff that you can do to make yourself equal, but in this specific dynamic, you are most likely in the subservient position within the, you don't have high status in this scenario. So yeah, don't do stuff that's going to make it feel ick, because it'll lower your status even more.
So you want to raise your status by that. Now, a lot of times, let's say in this example, they say, oh, I can probably call you later this week, and they just don't give you a specific time. Now, if they say, I can talk tomorrow at 2, that's fine, and then I'll show you what to ask next to find out what the objection is, and you're there, and you can actually close them, okay?
This is really good. So vagueness kills deals, right? If someone is trying to fob you off, they're going to be non-specific about their follow-up. Hey, why don't you just send me an email? Hey, why don't you just, I'll give you a call tomorrow. I'll give you a call in the next couple of days. the lack of specificity is the greatest flag this person is trying to fob you off. So what do you do about it? So remember, what's happening here is they're doing that because there's something that they don't feel comfortable telling you in terms of an objection behind the scenes. So my go-to is like, yeah, absolutely. Most of the time when a prospect tells me that, it's because there's something that's happened in the conversation that they just don't feel comfortable sharing. So I just want to present that opportunity to you now. Like, if there's any question that you have that you didn't feel comfortable, I'm more than happy to answer it. Or if it's just a no and you're just being kind, I'd rather you just tell me no than to try to be kind. That's a more genuine, direct, honest conversation than this whole like, maybe I'll be available.
Let's say this prospect says, I don't know, I'm pretty busy, but I can probably call you back later in the week. And let's say it's a Monday and they're saying this to you. Now, you cannot have a prospect where you're just waiting on them calling you back, because if you do that, what's going to happen? Well, because you're experiencing it right now, 99% never call you back. So
it puts you in a chasing dynamic, right? So at the end of the call, if the agreed frame is the prospect will call you back, you're stuck in a chasing position, right? Where you're following up and you're risking being pushy and you're kind of have to nudge them. So what you want to get to is an agreement of equal status, which would be like, how about we just book a time in together? And, rather than me following you up X amount of times and, being pushy and getting lost in your emails, why don't we just lock in a time? Or, okay, cool. When do you want me to follow up with you? And how often do you want me to nudge you? Just so I get an idea, because when I've been in this position before, someone said, I'll call you later in the week. I've called them. They don't answer. I called them again. They don't answer. And then we're in this weird land of like, I'm just, trying to get hold of you, chasing you. I don't know if you actually want it or you don't want it, whatever. So I just want to save all of that hassle. And why don't we just book something in? Or if it's a case of this is not for you and you're being kind, just let me know.
There's no waffling. You have to get a specific time frame, okay? You might want to pay attention to what I'm going to show you here next. Then you're going to say this. I'm not sure I have to call you later this week. Well, yeah, I'm not sure if I'd be randomly available like that with my schedule. What I can do, though, if it helps you, is if you have your calendar handy, I can pull up mine and have you book a specific time with me. That way you don't have to chase me down and vice versa. Would that help you if I did that? Now, let me show you what I just did.
That works for Jeremy, and it might work for some of you, but nearly every single person that I've spoken to, every sales rep that I've spoken to that has been in the Jeremy program has said that stuff just feels stupid. Like it just feels, I don't know if I'd randomly available with my schedule. Like it's all put on, it's all performative. And if it's not you, like if it's not normally you, if you don't actually sound like that, and I think I'm being hypercritical of Jeremy here, but I don't mean to come across that way. I'm just very passionate about the people that speak to me that like, I took Jeremy's program, it didn't work for me, maybe there's something wrong with me. No, there's not something wrong with you. This will work for a subset of the sales population who naturally can speak like that. But if you're like, for example, me in this video, I'm not speaking like that. That's not me. But I have been able to talk like that because it's part of, I'm not entirely sure if I could, but, it even as I sound that, it feels gross coming out of my mouth because it's potentially a lie. And so we just don't want to lie, I guess. That's the key principle here. Like if you're not busy, then don't lie about being busy because it will just feel gross and people will notice.
It's called an NEPQ calendar commitment. Now you have a firm time. That's plan B. Now I'm going to show you what...
You don't need all that rah-rah stuff to get the calendar commitment. You just say what I said before, which is like, yeah, sure. You can have a think about it. How about we just lock something in the calendar so I don't just chase you randomly and hound you and then we end up in that awkward place where I have no idea what's going on.
Plan A is in just a second and how you're going to help them overcome and find out what their concern is. But right now we're on plan B, okay? Now, here's what we're going to say. Well, I'm not sure if I'd be randomly available like that with my schedule. What does that position you? High status, you're busy, you've got lots of clients. You don't need them, right? You're an expert, right? Lots of people are coming to you to solve these same problems. Now,
they're probably not, let's be honest.
What I can do, it helps you. Notice how I'm flipping the script, right? who has the problems here? Me, the salesperson, or the prospect? Well, the prospect has the problems, right? Who has the solution to solve those problems? I do. See, we want to flip that script. We want them to do the work rather than you trying to do all the work. So we're flipping that, all right?
I agree with that. That's a very powerful dynamic, right? What I can do for you if it helps you. Very, very subtle, very, very persuasive. And this is technically how we collapse that power dynamic. So you know how I was talking about before, where it is because we're in the chase position, we're trying to sell something, we kind of need the prospect more than they need us. Having a frame like this is what we call a moral frame. So a moral frame is, I'm going to do good. I'm going to do something nice. So the way you collapse power frames or power imbalances is what I can do for you if it helps you. Because what that sentence is implying is that I'm trying to help you. And so we're not going to try and crush the person who is trying to help us. It makes it much harder for the prospect to kind of use their power imbalance to bully us. So I really do like that.
What I can do if it helps you is if you have your calendar handy, I can pull up mine and have you book a specific time with me. That way you don't have to chase me down and vice versa. Notice that way you don't have to what? Chase me down. What does that do? Builds your status, raises your status in their mind. You're busy. That way they don't have to chase you down. See the difference here? Why are you chasing them down when you're going to get them to chase you down? And then I say, would that help you? Nobody's going to say no. Now, here's the point. You book the appointment, let's say the next day. All right, now, here's what you're going to do. Now, why did I just do all of that? The biggest reason I just did all that, the reason why I said not a problem and I booked another appointment with them is now their guard is down. And why? Because they think you're going to leave. So if you're on the phone, they think now you have the appointment that you're about to get off the phone. If you're on Zoom virtually, or if you sell virtually, whatever platform you use, now they think you're going to get off Zoom. If you're in their home or business, depending on if you sell B2B or B2C, or even if you sell door to door, they think you're about to leave. So where's their guard? Lowered, right? They don't feel any sales pressure, like they feel like you're going to leave. And here is where the magic begins. Are you ready? All right, now here's what you're going to do. Now, John, before I go, I guess what were you wanting to go over in your mind? That way I know what questions you'll have when we talk tomorrow.
One of the things I like to do is I call this a stress test. So the stress test is, just before we go, what was it that you wanted to think about before our next catch-up? So you can actually then, after you've disarmed it, you can go and drill down on what it is that they wanted to think about. Now remember, the main objection here is there's something that they don't feel comfortable telling you. And I actually have like a cheat sheet that I can link below. If you drop a comment, cheat sheet, I'll send you the 13 hidden objections that exist in your buyer's mind, the things that they don't feel comfortable telling you, because that's really what's going on here. So we need to disarm and then figure out what is the hidden objection here. What's the hidden concern that they don't feel comfortable telling us?
Did you see what I just did? Instead of saying, before I go, what do you need to think about? You said you like the car, you said you wanted the insurance policy, or you said you needed have a better fraud stack if you sold cybersecurity, or whatever it is, okay? Now, before I go, what were you wanting to go over in your mind? And you do this, what were you wanting to go over in your mind, just so I know what questions you'll have when we talk tomorrow? Now, this is really key. You have to verbal pace this out. Do you know what I mean by verbal pacing? What would I do? How does it sound if I do this? Now, before I go, what were you wanting to go over in your mind, just so I know what questions you'll have when we talk tomorrow? Oh, I don't know. I just need some time to think about it. Watch what I do now. Now, Sally, before I go, I guess what were you wanting to go over in your mind, so I know what questions you'll have when we talk on Tuesday? Did you see my facial expression shifted into a what? Did you hear how my tone was more of a curious tone? See, your tone is how your prospect interprets why you're asking the question.
So this is pretty true. The tone and the body language matters a lot. Now, this can be the most difficult thing for founders and business owners to sort of get. And I wouldn't stress too much about it, to be honest. I would say the number one reason why you're not making more sales is because you don't have a framework to follow. There's no consistency in what it is that you're doing. So it's not, I know that I do this, I do this, I do this, and I do this, and that equals the sale. The tone and the body language comes later. And I think this is what trips most people up inside of the NEPQ world is they're trying to do the flourish, they're trying to do the garnish before they've done the actual main course. So if you've ever been in the point where it's like, oh man, that tone thing just goes over my head, or like, I don't really, like, what's my face doing? And all this other stuff, like, don't worry about it, right? Don't stress about it. It comes after you've nailed the fundamentals.
Now, a curious tone causes them to actually open up and tell me what they wanted to go over in their mind, not think it over. Remember, they think I'm still going. You know what most of them are going to do? Well, it's just, I really need to think about it. It's a big decision, and I'm just not sure if we have the money or budget for it. Oh, what did we just find out? That it's a money objection. And now you're still there on Zoom or on the phone or in person, and now you can help them overcome the money objection. Or, well, it's just a big decision, and I just feel like I really need to talk with my husband. He's not going to be here till tonight. Oh, we just found out what? A spouse objection. Now we're there, we can help them overcome it. Well, it's just a big
I've talked about spouse objection. We don't overcome spouse objection. We find the real objection behind spouse objection. But if someone at the end of the day is saying, I'm about to invest $20,000 and I want to run it past my partner, fuck yeah, you should. That's not objection to overcome. And I think it's so silly, it's so gross. Me and my partner talk about decisions because we're a household, right? We're a partnership. So in any other circumstances, it'd be so weird. Let's say, for example, you run a business, you have a co-director, person says, do you want to do this? You're like, I've got to run it past my co-director. They're like, nah, cool. Would they trust you? Do they believe that you have the best interest of the company at heart? It's like, no, I genuinely have to speak to the co-director of the company. But if you were really committed, you would probably do it, wouldn't you? I'm like, shut up, dude. That's so weird.
Decision, and I just don't know if I have time to really do this right now. Oh, what do we find? That it's a time objection, and we have to we're helping them overcome the objection. You see how easy that is to find out real objection by simply getting them to let their guard down, by them feeling you're about to leave, and simply asking them, now, hey, before I go, what were you wanting to go over in your mind? See, you got to act this out. You can't say, what were you wanting to go over in your mind? See, your face is like the remote control to your tone. Your facial expression is the remote control to how your tone comes across, okay? What were you wanting to go over, I guess, in your mind, just so I know what questions you'll have when we talk tomorrow? See how easy that is? All right, you want to start learning these type of...
So, yeah, all in all, I think it's pretty good. In terms of the structure, the diffusing the objection and finding out the real objection behind the scenes, that's kind of critical, right? I think that's what we can take away here. We can drop all the performative stuff around like, I'm fake busy and my tone and all that kind of stuff. If that goes over your head, don't worry about it. Don't stress. You don't have to do that stuff straight away. And at the end of the day, there's really only two objections. There's a money objection, which is I genuinely can't afford it, or the money in my bank account doesn't allow me to do it right now, so I need help with the logistics. Or there is a value objection, a fear objection, which is I don't see how this is worth my investment. I'm scared that it won't work for me, etc. So like I said, I have a cheat sheet. If you comment cheat sheet down below, I'll send it across to you. It's got the 13 hidden objections, which are either fear or money. And once you know them, then you can know how to overcome them. And we don't worry about the spouse objection, right? We can stress test it. We can say, yeah, sure, cool. Go catch up with your spouse. No worries. Is there anything that was unclear today that you might need help explaining? Because she's going to see a line item of $20,000. Or he's going to see a line item of $20,000 and they're going to be like, you're going to spend 20 grand on what? So you need to be prepared for that conversation. So all in all, great video. Jeremy's a legend. Again, we're not trying to be assholes about it. We're just trying to learn some stuff and get better and make more sales. I'll see you in the next one.